Good evening, I'm Jason Vio. Katarina is away tonight. Here's what's making news right now.
There's that false security thinking that COVID is something that's gone, when you should really start preparing for when school comes and kids are going to be indoors in groups again.
It is something that's frustrating to hear because it's bad for animal welfare and it's bad for the ecosystem, and there are much more responsible options.
Thanks for joining us. With the start of school less than a month away, students are learning tonight they won't have to wear a mask when they head back to class unless they want to. The CBC's Ali Chiasson has those details.
I think we'll probably send her with a mask at least on the first day, and then we will sort of gauge where the rest of her class is at, and then see how we feel, what the numbers are like, and how she's feeling about being possibly one of the only kids with a mask on.
I'm kind of happy about wearing them, but sometimes I don't really want to.
Will you need to include face masks with your kids' school supplies this year? The quick answer is no, although some school boards will recommend that kids continue to wear them. But it is up to you. Schools will continue to have supplies should students want one.
There is actually no difference between when people left in June to what's going to happen in September.
There are other ways of reducing spread that the ministry has put in place with HEPA filters and ventilation.
We are turning the systems on earlier in the day. We're making sure that windows are open when they can be. I feel schools are safe. I feel they're as safe as anywhere else, basically, at this point.
What's also different about this school year is that we no longer have daily reported case counts.
I think most people determine how much risk they're willing to put up with, or what's acceptable for them and their family.
Did you wear one today in camp?
Yeah.
I'm a little concerned. I mean, it's the 7th, 12th, the millionth wave, so who knows? It is continuing, but I am a little concerned.
A lot of people are not wearing masks, so it gives the impression to people that COVID is over.
Infectious disease specialist Dr. Anna Banerjee says between now and the first day of school, have a talk with your kids and remind them.
There's still COVID out there.
And for parents specifically,
we know more kids are getting long COVID, kids are getting the inflammatory syndromes, and so get your kids vaccinated.
So now we know masks are optional but strongly recommended by medical professionals. Now it's up to you. Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
And with the school year just around the corner, some students here in Windsor will be returning to in-person learning for the first time since the pandemic began. The change has some parents feeling a little anxious.
Know that the online kids, they didn't print a lot. They typed and they used dictation. So they, they're spelling and they're printing. My little guy has a hard time, doing the printing because he deals with chronic pain. So that's going to be a struggle for him. Making friends. My kids have had each other, so I think they've fared better than someone who was an only child. Absolutely, they fared a lot better because they've always had each other. My little one, she's basically a pandemic baby. She was 2 when the pandemic hit, and she's 5 now, going into senior kindergarten. It's going to be a shock for her. She's never been away from mom. So to spend 6 hours in a school with people that she doesn't know, she's definitely have some strong feelings about that. I know my children will be masked. It's going to help in the long run. They're not overly keen about masking because, of course, they're afraid they're going to get bullied. They're going to get, why are you wearing a mask? We get that when we're out, too. Even, kids will be like, well, how come you're wearing a mask? Well, we just want to keep you safe and we want to keep ourselves safe, too. So the kids want to be in school. They miss their friends, and sure, they made friends online, but they want to be in person.
And the local public and Catholic school boards say masking will be optional. Officials say they will continue to provide rapid antigen tests as well as masks and hand sanitizer for students and staff. Ontario's legislature is back for a rare summer sitting. Today, members elected their speaker, and already for the first decision was a surprise for some MPPs, leading up to what could be a tense session with pressure coming from both inside and outside the legislature. Lauren Redekop has that story.
Doug Ford! Listen up! Doug Ford! Listen up!
A couple hundred people, most from unions, had a message for the Premier as they protested outside Queen's Park.
Repeal Bill 124!
Among those here, nurses, frustrated with their working conditions, low staffing, and the bill that caps their wage increase to 1%. though they did receive a one-time $5,000 top-up.
$5,000 is just something to quiet us down for a minute. That's how I personally feel about it.
Meanwhile, inside the legislature, MPPs elected the next speaker. In the end, Ted Arnott won. He was the speaker during the last session. Nominated by an NDP opposition member, seconded by a Liberal. In an odd parliamentary tradition, dragged across the floor of the legislature by them. He won against another PC MPP, Nina Tangri.
I am surprised that the government had made very clear the direction they wanted to go in, and we've just gone in a different direction today because, they have a significant majority in the House.
2 months since the election, it's the government that has a big majority, and yet the Premier doesn't seem to have the support of his caucus on a very substantial question.
But the new speaker says that Premier Ford never spelled out who his favorite pick was.
And every member of the legislature has the right to choose whoever they want to vote for in a secret ballot in a speaker's election.
That's as we can expect many questions from the opposition about health care in this session, as some hospitals and emergency departments have had to close temporarily due to a lack of staff. Today, this from the new health minister.
Let's be clear, there is not a crumbling system in the province of Ontario. We have a very strong healthcare system in Ontario. It disturbs me, as I'm sure it does many, when they find that their local hospital has to close for 4 hours, a shift, a period of time. But to suggest that it is in crisis is completely inappropriate.
We expect to hear more from the government on health care tomorrow during the throne speech. It lays out their priorities. Also coming up tomorrow, they'll reintroduce their budget. The PCs tabled it but didn't pass it before the last election. Loretta Redicop, CBC News, Toronto.
Air Canada is facing more criticism over its compensation claims. A passenger whose flight from Yellowknife to Calgary was cancelled in June says his cancellation claim was denied. The flight was rebooked 24 hours later, and in an email to that customer, the airline cited crew constraints due to the impact of COVID-19. It also said the compensation request does not apply because the delay or cancellation was caused by a safety-related issue. The Canadian Transportation Agency, though, says treating staff shortages as a safety matter violates federal rules. Hockey Canada is now explaining an apparent discrepancy in the number of incidents of alleged abuse, harassment, and discrimination it has dealt with. The organization's president provided the House of Commons committee with one number the day after a government agency provided another. The CBC's Janice McGregor has the latest.
Since 2018, national sport organizations have been required as a condition for their federal funding to report any incidents of abuse, discrimination, or harassment that could compromise their projects or their programming. And so, when an official from Sport Canada appeared before the Commons Heritage Committee on July 26, he was asked how many incidents like this had been reported by Hockey Canada since this new requirement was put in place 4 years ago. His answer? 8. When Hockey Canada's president, Scott Smith, testified the next day on July 27th, he was grilled about allegations first reported by TSN that players from 2 different national junior teams, the 2003 squad and the 2018 version, had participated in separate group sexual assaults, now under investigation by police in Halifax and London, Ontario. When he was asked about these investigations, Smith said this.
The 2003 incident, there has now been 4 reports to Sport Canada. 2018, 2003, and then there were 2 additional reports that are not sexual assault or sexual misconduct.
Hear that? He said 4 reports, not 8. CBC News contacted Hockey Canada to explain this discrepancy. Its spokesperson, Jeremy Knight, said that Smith had been asked about ongoing investigations, and there are apparently 4 cases where the investigations remain open. But if Sport Canada's database includes 8 reports from Hockey Canada in total, that means, based on Smith's testimony, that there were 4 cases reported in 2019 and 2020 where the investigations have concluded or been closed without finding anything. Because all these reports are confidential, we don't know in any of these cases what happened, who was involved, or whether anyone was held accountable. Sport Canada provided CBC News with a year-by-year breakdown of all the incidents reported by Hockey Canada, and when it did so, it also revealed an additional 9th case that the department says was reported on July 28th. That was the day after Hockey Canada officials testified before the committee. A spokesperson for Sport Minister Pascal Saint-Onge said this 9th incident isn't a formal case, but someone had contacted Hockey Canada to request information about the process for reporting the possible mistreatment of an athlete from the Northwest Territories. Hockey Canada advised this person to contact the police and also gave this person information about the new third-party mechanism that the government has put in place for investigating an allegation like this. But we don't know anything more about what, if anything, happened next. Janice McGregor, CBC News, Ottawa.
Cats, rabbits, and even turtles. Those are just some of the animals Point Pelee National Park staff have found roaming the grounds. While some of those animals are native to the region, others are clearly not. And the park says it's found between 6 to 12 domestic animals in the park since April. And it's asking people to not release or leave behind their animals.
Dropping either a pet or any animal, wild animal, it could be a raccoon or a bird. It's cruel to the animal, dropping them off in the park, because they're going into established territories. They're not used to fending for themselves. If they're a pet and they've been looked after, they're going to have trouble finding food and water, and then there's predators. We have a coyote population, and quite often they'll fall prey to them.
Domestic animals are considered invasive species, so they're also bad for the park's ecosystem and could bring disease into the park or threaten at-risk species. Other more responsible options, the park says, would be to bring the animal to a local shelter or rehab facility.
It's bad for animal welfare and it's bad for the ecosystem. When you adopt a pet, you are really making a commitment to them, and you're saying that you're going to care for them. When you're taking them in, that's something you're committing to them for their life. And there are times that it's not going to work out, or maybe you can't keep them, your situation has changed, but there are responsible options where you can ensure that they're cared for.
The Humane Society says it can usually take in animals pretty quickly. Right now, though, there is a bit of a wait for cats. It's about 2 to 3 weeks. And there's also a wait for rabbits and guinea pigs. The Humane Society says people should call ahead to book a surrender appointment, and you can reach them at the number on your screen. Well, it was April 1968. At that time, the Toronto Maple Leafs were the reigning Stanley Cup champions. Mankind had not yet walked the moon. Pierre Elliott Trudeau was the newly elected Prime Minister of Canada, and a local teenager named Betty Shaw had just purchased a brand new Brittany blue Ford Mustang right off the lot. Now, many things have changed in those 54 years, but Betty Shaw is still driving that very same Mustang. Earlier today, the CBC's Mike Evans went to go visit Betty, her Mustang, and go for a ride.
1968, April 23rd, 10 to 7 at night, pouring rain. I got there just before the dealership closed.
What does this car mean to you?
I really like this car. I've always liked this car. And I think the longer I have it, the more I like it. My daughter has never driven it. Bill has driven it a couple times. I could name the few people who have driven it. It's always been here. It's always been around. You can ask almost anybody that's in Kenora that's over of any age, basically. They always remember this car.
I've heard that people have often stopped you and offered to buy this car off you. What do you say to them?
And a lot of people think she's worth a lot of money. I mean, she's definitely worth more than I paid for. But it is not the money. She's just not for sale. It's nice just to get the thumbs up or see people smile. But to me, it's even more exciting when it's little people and they recognize the car. See, I have these things I do automatically. That's why I don't want Bill driving it, because he doesn't shut the lights off. He forgets. This is a picture of the car in 1968 when we were in Algonquin Park at Lake of Two Rivers camping. There was 4 of us who went in the Mustang with all our gear. Here's the car in 1974.
before we had a garage, when she was young and healthy and stayed outside. Now we just take better care of her. And she winters inside for 6 months roughly. She's on the road for about 6 months.
Do you guys have a nickname for the Mustang?
The old girl. I just call her the old girl. Yeah, she's fine.
In other news, City Council unanimously agreed to provide $100,000 toward a statue of a local music icon. Rosalie Tremblay, the girl with the golden ear, will be remembered in bronze. She was music director at the Big 8 CKLW radio from 1968 until 1984 and picked songs that would eventually become big radio hits. The sculptor says the statue is about 80% complete. St. Clair College has pledged $70,000 to complete the funding for the project. The sculpture is expected to be finished in April and unveiled on September 18th, 2023, Tremblay's birthday. She died last year at the age of 82. It was a hot weekend, but it didn't stop many from enjoying the Pride Parade right here in Windsor.
Shout out to our amazing CBC Windsor team holding down the fort.
CBC Windsor was out celebrating with the crowd. Windsor morning host Nav Nanwa took on the role as hype man for the parade, getting the crowd pumped for all of the excitement to come. The CBC Windsor team had such a great time handing out some goodies, some swag, and seeing the community come together to celebrate Pride in the city. Still to come, the humidity we've all been feeling isn't sticking around for much longer. Dahlia Ashry has your full weather forecast coming up right after the break. Heat warnings continue across parts of southwestern Ontario, including right here in Windsor, Essex. And today, many in Windsor were out enjoying, including that seagull, the warm weather while trying to keep cool. With the humidity, it felt like 43 degrees today, but that's not expected to stick around. Relief is on its way as early as tomorrow. And now Dahlia Ashby joins us live to talk a little bit more about weather and all this heat. And I think a lot of people will be happy to know that the heat isn't sticking around for much longer. But the weekend was quite a warm one, especially if you were outside. I'm sure you spent more of your time inside, I'm guessing, this weekend, Dahlia?
You know, I wish I could say I did, but I was working as well. So I did feel that heat warning that was in effect Saturday and Sunday, and we are feeling it as well today. So, you know, make sure you're staying hydrated for the rest of the day. But temperatures will eventually cool down. We're going to see those dry conditions a bit coming through. So the extreme heat is still sticking around. It's mainly sunny, but the showers will start to kick in just a little bit, and then we'll head back to those dry conditions. Normal high 27 degrees this time of year. We're sitting at 32 degrees in Windsor today, 16 degrees normal low, and 23 degrees. Now, what it is right now in Windsor, it's currently 29 degrees, Sarnia 30 degrees, Chatham-Kent a little bit on the cooler side, 24 degrees, and Kitchener as well, and London a little bit on the cooler side there. And we'll get to what we can expect this evening, not just a risk of thunderstorm, but a severe watch on that we're keeping an eye on. Windsor 39 degrees with that humid X. So like I said, that humidity was still high today, ramping up the temperatures, and Sarnia 39, London 33, and Kitchener 33. Now, are we going to expect rain in Windsor? Well, we'll get to that in a second, but first there's a severe thunderstorm watch for southwestern Ontario that we are keeping an eye on. It's also in Toronto. There's a risk of a thunderstorm as well. As we can see, Monday, 7 o'clock, what we can expect, well, it's mostly cloudy, some fog in the area. There is that risk of precipitation and activity in that severe thunderstorm that, like I said, we're keeping an eye on. 9 o'clock is when really we'll start to see it kick in. But as you head into work tomorrow, skies are looking pretty clear, and it'll stick around to be clear for most of the afternoon on Wednesday as well. And that's the same thing as you head into the afternoon on Wednesday. Things start to get a little cloudy again. Thursday afternoon starts to clear up, but Thursday morning is when you really see the cloud coverage. As for tonight, temperatures will drop 18 degrees in Chatham-Kent, Windsor 19 degrees. There is a risk of a thunderstorm, and with the winds gusting, it could pick up and get quite intense. Wednesday and Thursday, actually, a little bit of a mistake here in terms of what I did, but it should be mostly dry Wednesday and Thursday. Some sunshine is what we can expect, and a little bit of rain on Tuesday, as I said. So really what to expect, the heat is still going to kick around and a bit of a cool down, but just wanted to make that correction. That is on me. That's
all right. I know this weekend it was so hot, and Dahlia, when it's this hot, I really don't have any motivation to do yard work. I'm kind of just outside. It's too hot to do anything. But I was in the pool a little bit, and after I got out of the pool, I was quite comfortable. I was like, maybe I can do a little bit of yard work, jump in the pool, come out, 5 or 10 minutes of yard work, go back in the pool, and it's like a cycle, and you can get things done.
It is. That's if you have a pool. Now, the rain will hopefully help us just cool down a little bit, and the winds that I was talking about. And you know what? The plants get to revive a little bit. They need the water too, not just us.
For sure. Okay, thanks so much, Dahlia.
Thanks, Jason.
Well, still to come, we'll dive right into the World Dog Surfing Championships. That's coming up right after the break. The white man who shot a black jogger in Georgia has been sentenced to life in prison for committing a federal hate crime. So was his father. The incident happened in February of 2020. Travis McMichael and his dad Greg are already serving a life sentence for Ahmaud Arbery's murder. They chased Arbery in a pickup truck after he ran past their home while a neighbor recorded it on his cell phone. He was sentenced to 35 years today. They said they thought Arbery was a burglar. Arbery's father says Travis McMichael had shown his son no mercy and deserved to rot in state prison. Award-winning singer and actor Olivia Newton-John has died. Best known for her starring role in the 1978 movie Grease, she also had a number of hit songs in a career that started in 1963. She won 4 Grammy Awards and had several popular songs, including I Honestly Love You and her biggest hit of all, Physical. Newton-John, who was born in the UK but grew up in Australia, was named an Officer of the Order of the British Empire in 1979. Diagnosed with breast cancer in 1992, she eventually went into remission but suffered a relapse 5 years ago. Newton-John helped raise awareness of the disease through her music. Her family issued a statement today saying she died peacefully at her California ranch surrounded by loved ones. She was 73 years old. Wildfires burning out of control have people in central Newfoundland on edge. The flames grew larger over the weekend, and residents of nearby communities may have to leave their homes at a moment's notice.
I packed up today, just be on the safe side.
I'm just packing up things that I think I need and be ready to go when the government says move out. You just got to be ready to go when the time comes.
A state of emergency is in place in parts of the province because of the heavy smoke. There is no evacuation order yet. The Premier of Newfoundland and Labrador is telling people to be ready to leave quickly if necessary. Authorities say there's some positive news as weather conditions are expected to improve, blowing away that smoke, and that would allow firefighters to get at the flames. Well, they say every dog has its day, and that is especially true in Northern California. Dozens of canines gathered on a beach near San Francisco on the weekend to compete in the World Dog Surfing Championships. The popular pooches competed in different classes based on size, and they were rated on everything from technique to the size of the waves they rode. The event has been held in San Francisco area since 2006. Dog surfing events have been held around the world in recent years, and there have been many in California, Florida, Australia, and the UK. Well, that's it for us here at CBC Windsor News. Don't forget, for news anytime, head to our website, cbc.ca/Windsor. We're on social media as well. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. The Rick Mercer Report is coming up next. Have a great night.